Welcome back. We're on to step 2 here in our dietary blueprint, and that's talking about being in control. First thing I talk to with all of my nutrition clients, whether they're looking to lose weight, just clean up their diet, have more energy, whatever it is they're looking to do, is step 1 we talked about. You think about in foods that you enjoy. And step 2 is be in control. Be in control of the food that you eat. That means that you're making the choices of what's in every bite. So there's a couple ways that you can think about that. When it comes to food, being in control, the best way to be in control is to cook from fresh. Cook from fresh ingredients. That means you buy it at the store, you chop it up, you fry it, you put it on a pan, you put it in the oven, however you're preparing it, but it starts from all fresh ingredients. Nothing in a box, nothing in a can. It can be frozen. Frozen is actually pretty good, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit in step 3. Frozen foods can actually be pretty decent. And so that can be a fresh substitute, so to speak. We'll talk about that again. We'll go into that here later. But cooking from fresh, that idea that you're using fresh ingredients to put food together. All right. And so that's really is the best way to be in control of the food that you're eating, is for you to cook from fresh. But I know that's not always possible, and I know you're in transition, so there are still going to be some boxed foods, half-prepared or pre-prepared foods. And, the way you can start making better choices, because that's really what we're doing. We want you to get to a place where you can make a better choice or make better decisions when it comes to food. We're not trying to throw it all away and start all new. I don't want you to do that. It never worked for me, and I know that if we're talking right now, it probably hasn't worked for you. So let's do something different. So this is the ideal. But if you have some boxed foods or things like that, then you want to be a label hound. Read that label and look at the dietary guidelines, nutrition guidelines, the nutrition report on there, and look at the label. So we want to have the least amount of ingredients as possible. So we want to have all recognizable ingredients. Ingredients should be recognizable. Forgive my occasional spelling. So being a label hound, those ingredients need to be recognizable. So minimal chemical additives. So minimal chemical additives, and that's usually preservatives, coloring, things like that. So as much natural as possible. If you buy organic, you're probably going to be going in the right direction, but I know that's not always feasible for everybody either. But again, if you have some foods that you enjoy that are packaged and boxed, then start reading labels and comparing types and brands and see if you can find a cleaner brand. Because I know there's cleaner options out there. Sometimes they're a little more expensive. Most of the time they're just a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth that investment too. So, and that'll become somewhat of a self-limiting factor. So we're thinking about that. We're thinking about being in control. We're starting with food. So you want to cook from fresh, and that's the ideal. The ideal is cook from fresh ingredients, and otherwise, really be a label hound and really know what is in the package that you're preparing and have it be minimal ingredients there. So we're thinking about that. And just a quick tip, if you're thinking about going out to eat, I know that you think about that, and we're going to have another resource for you available, talk about social eating and eating out, and those tips and strategies too. But a quick one here is that if you can't find any meals on the menu that have fresh ingredients or fresh substitutes, which usually you can usually substitute steamed vegetables for fries, things like that. And, to mitigate some of the hit. Or if you're really having a hard time finding something to eat that meets your goals and that satisfies you, and everything we talked about in lesson 1 about enjoying your food and being satisfying, but also making good choices, then you can look at the side menu and usually put something together. And it helps also to look ahead. So if you're going out to eat, look ahead so you can make good choices. But again, we'll have a longer talk about that later on. So when we think about being in control, we think about food, cook from fresh, be a label hound, but you also, I'm going to write this in green because this is a champion moment here. We talk about champion's mindset. And this is, being in control of yourself. So being in control of yourself. And, some of that, when we think about being in control of yourself, we're looking at the content of the food up here. Here we're looking at the portion size. We'll start there. So we're looking at the portion size here. And we want those portion size to be reasonable. And what does that mean, right? What is a reasonable portion size? So, the quick guideline that I give you on your resource here is the plate description. We'll talk about that in step 3 a lot more. But this plate distribution plan here, where vegetables are the priority, and you're not minimizing, but you're controlling the amount of your starches and your protein and fats and things like that. So having your foods in appropriate and equal measure according to their calorie content almost. So we're thinking about that. So we're controlling yourself, having some control over yourself on your portion sizes. You want your portion sizes to be reasonable. Use that plate guideline I just showed you as a quick and dirty. But if you want a little bit more detail, definitely look it up. And I'm coming up with some resources as well that will help you see what a good portion size is and understand what a reasonable portion size is and what a kind of standard portion size is for each type of thing and the calories involved. And that's a lot more when we get to talk about calorie tracking and those options as well down the lines. Remember, calorie tracking, I'm going to tell you right now, calorie tracking is an option. It doesn't tell you it's not something you have to jump into if it's not comfortable for you. That's definitely a lot more options there. But we can give you a guide that'll give you some representations of what is a standard portion of foods and what is the relative calories. Moving right along here. So we're thinking about the portion size, and we want that portion size to be reasonable. It may be standard. And you'll learn that as you go along. And so these are learning opportunities here, but we're just getting your mind going in the right direction. So when you're controlling yourself, thinking about your portion size, but also your cravings. So you want to be in control of your cravings. Remember when I said I didn't eat anything that I didn't want to eat, but I also didn't eat everything that I did want to eat. Sometimes you just have to say, not this time, and push it down the line. I'm not going to eat that right now. Or if it's something really sweet, and we're going to in step 3, if it's something sweet, have it with your meal, and then you're not eating it as a treat somewhere later during the day, spiking your insulin and all of that crazy stuff. But control your cravings, and a kind of holistic way to think about that. And my meditation advisor, and you might meet her along the way here too, in these studies and in these lessons. But think about giving your cravings space. So give them space. So just set them back a little bit. So if you're really craving something in the middle of the afternoon, instead of going to the refrigerator or freezer or wherever it is and grabbing a bowl of it or a bite of it or a handful of it, whatever it is, say, I'm going to have that with my dinner, and I look forward to having it with dinner. And if you still want it at dinner, have it at dinner or lunch or whatever, but have it with a meal. So it serves that purpose. It gives it space, and it also helps to mitigate the insulin hit of if it's sugary or really refined, things like that. So that's where we're at here with being in control. Be in control of your food. Cook from fresh when possible. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in things to come. Be a label hound. Know what's in the packages that you're purchasing if you're purchasing packaged foods. And be in control of yourself, of course. Have that champions mindset. We're developing that permanent weight loss champions mindset. Know your portion sizes. Have reasonable portion sizes. Use the plate diagram here, or and also understand your cravings and give your cravings some space to maybe resolve themselves. And you're learning how to give yourself some time and some space also to work through those cravings. So that's step 2. We're well on our way. I know this stuff is going to help you guys a lot, because this really is just kind of plug and play things. If you're confused, if there's some big questions that you have, make sure that you reach out somehow, email me, text me, whatever it is. Let me know that you're really struggling, and somebody on our team will maybe at least point you in the right direction and see what other resources maybe you're needing as well. All right. So again, you can do this. This is definitely something you can do, this dietary blueprint. It's plug and play. Once you spend a little time with it, it's a no-brainer. We'll see you at the next lesson.